What is going on, people? I am back for review 2 of today for the 31 days, half October, day number 7. This is a second review. Every once in a while, I'll throw in a second review for a movie that I think also needs, to be known. I mean, there's a whole lot that should be known, but I just can't do every single one. So the first one I did for today is Fender Bender. The second one I'll do today, if you couldn't read by the title, it is of the Funhouse Massacre. The Funhouse Massacre is directed by Andy Palmer. It's written by Ben Begley and Renee Dorian. It stars Robert Englund, Jere Burns, Scottie Thompson, among many others. So pretty much what this movie is about is right in the beginning, you get Robert Englund's character. He owns a, not owns, but he runs a asylum, I guess you want to call it, for these not so nice people. There's about 6 people in there, and they all have their backstory. They're all psychopaths, and they're all trapped in this, I guess you would call it like a mental asylum. In walks this young reporter. She's talking to Robert Englund's character and says, hey, listen, could I get a story about all of them? I find it interesting, this and that and this. Then he takes him on a tour, takes her on a tour, and you learn about each one of the people. Each one has their own backstory. Not one worse than the next, but they all have their own backstory. There's a deranged dentist. There's a cook. There's like this guy that could manipulate people with his mind, like talking. There's a taxidermist, and a clown, a wrestler gone rogue, I guess you want to call it, and starts killing people. So there's 5 psychopaths. And you find out that this girl isn't a reporter. She's actually one of these psychos, I guess you want to call it. This is right in the beginning, so not technically a spoiler. So she breaks these guys out. Meanwhile, on the other part of town, or wherever they are, they have this fun house going on that, some have different themes, I guess you want to call it. Well, this fun house is actually made for these psychopaths. Each little part of the fun house is, portrayed to them. Like there's a restaurant and this and that and this. So what happens is these psychopaths, I guess, somehow learn about it, and they end up going to this fun house, killing the people that actually work there, and then taking over their spots. And little does the public know, the people that are going to go to this place, that it's now overrun by the actual psychopaths themselves. It's not, what they expected it to be. So as the movie goes on, you get a group of young teenagers that it focuses on. You get a deputy and like a sheriff and a deputy and a whole bunch of things that now convene. They go to this fun house, and then all hell breaks loose. People are dying. You're trying to survive. You finally find out that, these people finally find out that, this isn't normal. It's actually happening kind of deal. Let's just say there's not a tremendous amount of gore, but for me, it's perfect amount. And the stuff, the scenes that have the gore in it are more, every once in a while you get a gore and you're like, okay, I've seen this before. Some of this, it's like, wow, like they were looking for it. Let's just say this is a horror comedy as well, but in this, some of the scenes, like, let's just say there's a certain way the clown in this, the guy that's the wrestler, gets his mask, and let's just say that scene was very, very intense, and I was like, ooh, like that definitely was gonna hurt. So it's definitely one. I was talking about this movie once I got it. I pre-ordered it because I saw the trailer for it. I pre-ordered it, and then we had the actual director on, Andy Palmer, on the Dorkening. For those of you who don't know, I'm part of the Dorkening, which we do interviews and everything. So I'll link that. I'll put it under his name, and then I'll link it throughout, where you can check out the actual Andy Palmer interview that he was on the Dorkening. But we had him on, we were talking about the whole thing, and I told the guys from the Dorkening, I'm like, we got to talk to this guy because this movie is going to be great. And the buzz I hear about it, and the amount of things I still see on Facebook and everything, there's a lot of people out there that like it, so I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. But if you haven't, definitely go ahead, check out the Funhouse Massacre, which I will link to in the bottom, where you can purchase it off Amazon. So definitely go ahead if you're into Funhouse movies, if you're into horror comedies, if you're into just horror in general. This is definitely a movie to definitely watch if you haven't already. So again, I'll leave all the links to everything. I'll leave the links to my personal pages, my Twitter, my Instagram, and everything in the bottom of here. And then, like I said in the previous video, which I just, kind of made, there are other people doing like a 31 days of Halloween, 31 days of horror, whatever they're calling it. I've seen on YouTube. I've checked them out. I'll leave the links to their stuff. So, if there's any other movies you want to see done, because they're doing classics, they're doing other movies that I'm not. So definitely go ahead, subscribe to their stuff, check their stuff out as well, because, this is a fun time for some horror movies. So, I guess until tomorrow, day number 8, and we'll be on E. I'll see you guys tomorrow.